On Liberty by John Stuart Mills. This is a presentation by Robert Stec. On Liberty is a political essay published in 1859 by English philosopher John Stuart Mill. In his often long-winded essay, Mills explores how much society and government should exert over an individual. Mill's belief was that unless somebody was harming themselves or another person, that individual freedom is more important than collective society. However, according to Mills, these freedoms apply only to human beings in their maturity of their facilities. We are not speaking of children or of younger persons below the age of the law might fix as that of manhood or womanhood, those who are still in a state required to be taken care of by others and must be protected against their own actions as well as against external injury. For the same reason, we may leave out consideration those backward states of society in which the race itself may be considered as its non-age. This line of thought brings forth his belief that despotism is a legitimate mode of government in dealing with barbarians, provided the end be their improvement and the means justified by the actual affecting to the end. To Mills, any civilization that had not achieved what he believed Western Europe had achieved were barbarians, and that those uncivilized groups lacked the ability required for freedom and needed to be guided by a more civilized hand. Library services are an important part of management of the library. Conducting evaluations is part of the process for understanding how well a library is performing. Libraries can become stagnant by doing the same old thing over and over again. Evaluations help decision making smarter so the library is in tune with their patrons and can provide services that better fit the community they serve and to choose resources that will further their community interest and knowledge. In a public entity like a library, historically the board slash librarian makes decisions based on the majority of their patrons' needs and wants. Libraries are still responsible to their boards and taxpayers and will therefore retain control over what services and resources are provided to its patrons. The goal today is to try to equalize collections and services to serve all the populations, not just the majority. This is accomplished through evaluation. Doing this in an authentic way is important so that all voices are heard. With this data in hand, you can see what minority populations care about and tailor parts of your programming for them. Libraries are moving away from a model of being traditional custodians of knowledge to engaging as patrons and community in a self-learning environment. These new ideas are constantly evolving due to the internet, and all the resources, correct and incorrect, are challenging society to move at a rapid pace. Mills would say both correct and incorrect information should be studied and challenged. This is how Mills believes knowledge grows and the truth survives. Although to Mills, all voices should be heard. According to Mills, all voices should be heard. Whether or not you are right or wrong, silencing an opinion and robbing the human race of that thought is robbing the human race of that thought. Humans should be allowed to form and express opinions without reservation as long as their own risk and peril and does not make a nuisance of himself to others. Mills believes that the truth prevails because of discourse. That an opinion is correct and is silenced when people are robbed of the opportunity to exchange error for truth. Mills uses the examples of Socrates as someone whose society does not want to hear his truths and was silenced. The library needs to balance the needs and wants of different stakeholders. The library does not have the right to control what information an individual can access. Conducting evaluations is one way to ensure that public money is being used smartly by the library system. In the evaluation process, the library should want to have a true picture of the ability to provide resources and services to the best of their ability. An evaluation process leads to an analyst of data. Data can be skewed for many reasons, such as suppressing information that puts the library in a poor light, or a governing board making decisions that are against what this evaluation shows. For example, the board has decided to stop offering a service because it costs too much. However, the evaluation shows it's a popular program among patrons. The library remains an important source of free reading material, especially those with limited economic means. Mills believed that the role of society and the economy and a government was to enable individuals to achieve their individuality, that the collective mind is mediocre and mankind tends to be mediocre, but genius, mental vigor, and moral courage abounds with eccentric behaviors and thoughts. It is a privilege, according to Mills, of human beings at maturity to find their own way, which parts of tradition and customs or experience are applicable to their own circumstances and individualism. Progress ceases when individuality is suppressed, Mills says. We are assuredly but starved specimen of what nature can and will produce. Human nature is not a machine doing exact work prescribed for it, but a tree which grows and develops on all sides. Libraries have an obligation to broaden people's horizons by challenging the status quo thoughts of the majority and the ability to spread information to individuals to increase diversity of thought and help society grow. However, libraries must also report to a broad board and taxpayers about how the funds are being used. Libraries must use evaluations to gauge how its programs are performing and to create a report on these findings. Most libraries will use Orr's evaluation model, which measures the goodness of library services. According to Orr, when a library is established, it is provided with a set of resources. Libraries use these provided resources to provide their services. When used, these services have the ability to make a positive impact on individuals and ultimately on the community. Rather than focusing on evaluation of a specific library service, the library must attempt to assess the total impact of library services in the lives of its customers. People should want to help each other make good choices for his or her life, and discourage others from making bad ones. According to Mills, however, nobody has the right to prohibit a capable adult from having the ultimate say in their individual conduct. Only these individuals can determine what is in their best interest. The interest of society or other people in their actions is typically indirect and secondary. Society is not a contract, but if you receive protections from that society, you owe a debt, according to Mills. No person is entirely isolated, if they damage their property, those who rely on it will also face that damage, or if someone refuses to take care of their bodies, they will become a drain on society. Whether or not someone believes it, humans are not isolated in society, and libraries act as a conduit of information to the masses. Libraries are changing to meet the needs and expectations of their communities. Libraries need to better understand the relationship between the library resources and services to their impacts on the lives of their patrons. Accessing this impact will require libraries to move from traditional library-centric views on the world to looking at deeper issues associated with libraries according to contributions to learning, teaching, and research. As public entities, the biggest modern question a library faces is whether or not to allow unfettered access to any information. As we as library students have an obligation to stand up against censorship. According to Mills, individuals are not accountable to society as long as their interests concern no one but themselves. If individual is going to do something that harms themselves or society, then that society needs to have the ability to subject them to social or legal punishment. As stated before, no person is entirely isolated in a society, and others in society should want to help make everybody make good choices. But Mills believes that only individuals can decide what is right for themselves. With the creation of the internet, the world has become a much smaller place, and the problems studied and the literature related to them might transcend national boundaries and appear in journals that are international in scope. Databases such as the Elsevier's Science Direct include research and scholarship from a worldwide perspective. Librarians and researchers in other countries might be interested in the same problems and might be able to build on the body of research relevant to the topic area. Such an approach builds collective understanding and appreciation of what others around the world are doing. The search for relevant literature about a problem should be broadly cast as researchers now place their work in global context. The libraries are at a crossroad and must redefine their niche. As they do so, they are not likely to be one size fits all solutions. Library leaders can engage their communities in an examination of desired futures and select the one most appropriate.